I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. If you could bring up the protest outside the Mellon Bank by the pro-Palestinians, and I'm not bringing a political statement about the war in Gaza or what I refer to as a Sabbath day war. I'm not taking a political position, although I am a Zionist. But I want to show you a picture of the Mellon Bank and the protesters out in front of it. Many of you will remember a year ago that I was standing out in front of the Mellon Bank for one solid week. Well, they've got trouble. Leave that there, Mr. Engineer. Let me just bring some people up to speed because you may not be aware of it, that the Mellon Bank has, for years, been taking poor people's property here in New York City and other places as well. And we have been engaged in a fight with them, a foreclosure fight that has lasted nearly 20 years. And we have now sought remedy in the federal court, Southern District Court here in the city of New York, that the Mellon Bank has deprived me of my rights. They have tormented me. They've tortured this church. They sent us through a living hell, threatening to take our church, take our school, take our worship center, destroy us as a people. And they have been tormenting us. We've been in court fighting this for 20 years, over $700,000, and expenses have been, and lawyers and expenses we have had to pay trying to protect our multi-million-dollar church property. The Mellon Bank bought a lien from the city of New York for $36,000, Stacy. That's right. And we, in defending ourselves, have had to spend over $77 million. Let me get that right. Fighting. $700,000. I'm tired. We have had to spend over $700,000 in lawyer and expenses defending what was a $36,000 lien. However, the judge ruled that we didn't owe it, that we're tax exempt, and the city continued to harass us, to torment us, and so that's why we've had to spend that amount of money, and we'll spend more. But I want to say this, that the wrath of God is now against the Mellon Bank. What you see now happened this weekend with 100 protesters outside of the Mellon Bank blocking the doors, wouldn't let people go in or go out. And mainly because the Mellon Bank has a $13 million nurturing investment from the IDF, or the Israeli Defense Forces, on a weapon that is unique to the Israeli people. And the Palestinians are attacking, the protesters are attacking the Mellon Bank's involvement in the war that's going on between the Hamas and the Israeli, or the IDF. Thank you very much, Mr. Engineer. But that's not the only problem that the Mellon Bank has. The question was raised, and an article was printed, will the Mellon Bank collapse? And I need to tell you that the bank is on its way out, and it's the wrath of God. And I am so thankful to the Lord that we are getting this kind of help from God as we fought this mighty bank. You know, several months ago, I asked for an angel to come. I did. And to help me, like the angel that came and to help Daniel. Well, I'm telling you, we've got angels after angels. The Mellon Bank is on its way out because of its years and years of ill doing. I'm going to read to you a sketch of a financial report, a summation of where the Mellon Bank is now financially. And you can see we need to hurry up with our court case because they made themselves be in bankruptcy court in not too many days. It says this is an article by David Jennings, who was a writer and a market analysis and for the Market Madhouse publication. And it says investors are wondering about Bank of New York Mellon's stability after the near collapse of another specialized financial institution, the First Republic Bank. Fears that First Republic could collapse led Bank of New York Mellon and 10 other banking giants to organize a $30 billion bailout. First Republic will use the money to cover uninsured deposits. The hope is to prevent further bank collapses. To explain, First Republic could collapse because it has many wealthy depositors with over $250,000 in their account. And the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation normally only insures the first $250,000 in accounts. However, the FDIC, or the Federal Insurance Corporation, is insuring any amount in accounts now of two other troubled institutions, Silicon Valley and Signature Bank. Now, some of you who have been around know a little something about the market, know a little something about the banking industry, know that several months ago, these two banks collapsed. They both had to be propped up. But the question remains now, how safe is the Bank of New York Mellon, or as I like to refer to it, as the Mellon Bank? Well, how safe is that bank? Is that bank on its way out? Let me also state, and I'm going to put up some photos of myself in front of the Mellon Bank. I cursed that bank back in August of 2022. I want, if the attorneys for the Mellon Bank or investors of the Mellon Bank or haters of Pastor Manning are listening, I want you to know that I cursed that bank. I cursed the bank, and I cursed his investors. And one of the largest investors in the Mellon Bank is Warren Buffett. The reason why the pro-Palestinian protesters were there in front of the Mellon Bank is because the Mellon Bank has a $13 million investment from the IDF, or the Israeli Defense Force. I want to say to the investors, I have cursed you. Now, you may not believe that I have any kind of power, that you may not even believe in God. You may not even believe in a spiritual entity. But I want you to know, under biblical strength, as the messenger of Almighty God, I curse the Mellon Bank that it shall fail, that it shall be no more. I stood in front of that bank and I walked barefoot as the prophet of God, and I cursed that bank. I cursed the investors. I want you to know that. So the writer here, Mr. Jennings, writes, will the Mellon Bank collapse? Well, here is the question. Bank bearers will wonder if Mellon Bank, which also has many high-valued customers like Warren Buffett, could be vulnerable. To explain, Bank of New York Mellon makes money by providing investment services and wealth management. The business model resembles Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic Bank. Hence, Bank of New York Mellon could face the banking debt spiral if a wealthy customer withdraw their money. I'm saying to Warren Buffett, I have cursed that bank. Now, let me say this to those who may feel that somehow or another I'm stepping out of place. First, do you believe I have the power to curse anything? To curse a mosquito, for that matter? Do you believe I have the power? And if you do, then let me take you one step further. I curse them because of the ill that they have done and continue to do in our society, and to so many people that have gone on before me. And as a pastor, as a man of God, as a spiritual leader here in the community, as a provider of education and food for children, I took them down before the Mellon Bank and marched them around that institution. And I cursed them there. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. So I want to be able to let you know, if you're an investor in the Mellon Bank, wise investors realize that the day of the Mellon Bank is coming. And our day in court, Stacy, is also coming. And we have lobbed a $23 million wrongful act against the Mellon Bank, plus 18% interest against Robin Vance and James Meeks and an NYCTL 1998 organization, whatever it does and however it does what it does, by foreclosing poor people's property, crushing people, and sending people into the street of homelessness. I've cursed that bank. And it was a year ago. I can say to you this, a year from now, I doubt very seriously if Mellon Bank will be a solvent institution. But let me read, no, you don't have to take my word for it. Let me read what this article says, all right? The business model of the Mellon Bank resembles Silicon Valley, which failed, Signature Bank, which failed, and First Republic. Hence, Bank of New York Mellon could face the banking death. This is not my article. I didn't write this. The banking death spiral if wealthy customers withdraw their money. The banking death spiral occurs when a bank lacks the funds to cover all withdrawals. Bank runs are often the banking death spiral. The federal government guarantees all accounts at Signature Bank and Silicon Valley to prevent hysteria that could lead to bank runs and death spirals. Similarly, big banks are giving First Republic money to prevent a collapse that could trigger bank runs. Could Bank of New York Mellon collapse? I didn't write this article. David Jennings wrote this article. Skeptics will wonder if the bank bailout could hurt Bank New York Mellon. Notably, Bank of New York Mellon admits it is making a $1 billion uninsured deposit to help save First Republic. The Bank of New York Mellon can easily afford the bailout because it has $405,783 billion in total assets and $148 billion on cash and short-term investments on the 31st of December, the year 2022, the year that I cursed them. The year that I cursed them, that was what they had. I cursed them in August of 2022. This is a report of what they had as assets and cash investments at the end of the year 2022, the year that I cursed them. But pay very careful attention. Hence, Bank of New York Mellon total assets shrank by $655 billion after I cursed them. After I cursed the Mellon Bank, their investment portfolio shrank by nearly $39 billion after I cursed them. But that ain't all. Similarity, Bank of New York Mellon's cash and short-term investments fell from $342 billion on the 31st of December of the year 2021 to $148 billion on 31st of December. Let's just turn the page here. 31st of December, the year 2022, the year that I cursed them. So let's just do the math here. The year, and you said, Pastor, well, let me not argue with you, all right? Let me not argue with Stacy. Let's do the math. The Mellon Bank lost nearly $40 billion after I cursed them in their total investment portfolio. But they also lost in that same year the amount of, what was the amount that they lost? Let's see what they lost 72, they lost 66, the total debt from, let's just read this. Hence, they lost $23 billion, I'm sorry. So between the $39 billion that they lost in the year 2022, the year I cursed them, in one of their portfolio packages, and yet a second portfolio package in the year 2022, it says that they lost $23 billion. So they lost a total of $62 billion. It's what they lost after I cursed them. And I want Robin Vince to hear this. I want Robin Vince, I want the investors of the Mellon Bank, and I want all the people that love the Lord God Almighty and who want to see us victorious. I want you to hear this. You can say, Pastor Manny, you didn't have anything to do with it. Well, it happened. I gave the curse. And by the time the year 2022 had ended, they had lost $62 billion. But that's not all. Now, remember, I read earlier that their total portfolio was $405 billion. If you take $62 billion out of a portfolio of $405 billion, you've taken more than a fifth of the entire portfolio. That's like you earning $100 a week and somebody comes along and cuts your salary from $100 to $80. You have less money to negotiate with now. But that's not all. They lost a fifth, but listen, look, there's more. Moreover, Bank of New York Mellon's total debt grew. Now, they've lost $62 billion the day after I cursed them. After I cursed the Mellon Bank, Stacy, they lost $62 billion that they're never going to get back after I cursed them. But that's not their only problem. The Mellon Bank's total debt grew in the year 2022, the year that I cursed them. The total debt from $66.5 billion on the 31st of December the year 2021 rose to $72 billion on December 31st, year 2022. In other words, their debt rose by $5 billion. So here, your profits are going down by as much as 62, if you will, 62, I'm sorry, by as much as $62 billion. Your profits are going down. You've lost $62 billion, which is 1/5 of your total worth. But your debts are rising. Your debt, you are now taking on $5 billion more debt in the year 2022, the year I cursed them, than they did the year before. And that continues to increase. We're now in the waning days of the year 2023. The Mellon Bank's in big trouble. And I thought I would say this. And why am I doing this? First of all, I want to express that the wrath of God is against the Mellon Bank. And you can say, well, Pastor Manny, you didn't have anything to do with it. Go ahead, if that's how you feel about it, knock yourself out. We don't have to fall out as friends. I will not dislike you for saying that. I will not. But I will say this. The Mellon Bank has been trying to take our property. The Mellon Bank has been forcing us to go to bankruptcy, right? Now, Mellon Bank is losing their money, and they're facing bankruptcy. So you can say, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I don't know if you have enemies. Maybe you don't have any enemies. Everybody loves you. But would you want your enemies who are trying to take you down? Would you want to see God take them down rather than take you down? Or maybe you don't believe me. But anyway, I don't believe in coincidences of this magnitude. But I cursed them. I know I did. I know I cursed them. I know I told them it's going to happen. I'm going to tell you, it's going to get worse. Okay, let's look at the final part of this article. It says, how much cash in Bank of New York Mellon, or is the Mellon Bank, let me just say Mellon Bank, can I say that? Generating. Another reason to fear the Mellon Bank collapse is that the cash flow. So now they're $62 billion less money, 1/5 of their money is gone. Their debt has risen by $5 billion. So if you add the debt to the loss, they're up now to what? $70 billion if you add the numbers together. So they're at a greater point than 1/5 of their total gross, if you will, worth has now dissipated. But that ain't all. That's not all. Listen to this. The cash flow, for example, Mellon Bank's quarterly operating cash flow fell from $3.129 billion on the 31st of December in the year 2021 to $2.9 billion on December 31st, 2022, the year I cursed them. So they lost $1 billion in cash flow. They lost $1 billion less in money that they generate in terms of operating quarterly expenses. That's quarterly. That's on a quarter. That's every 3 months. But that ain't all. Thus, the quarterly operating cash flow fell in 2002. However, the quarterly operating cash flow rose to $4 billion over June 2022. In contrast to the quarterly investing cash flow rose to $19 billion on December 31, 2022. 21, right? I'm sorry. Similarity, quarterly cash flow fell from $24 billion on 31st of December 2021 to a minus. I'm sorry. Okay, the quarterly cash flow fell from minus $24 billion in December of 2021 to minus $26 billion. So in other words, they are losing less money per quarter in 2022. They took in minus $24 billion, or they received, the cash flow fell $24 billion in December of 2021, and it fell $26 billion, so it rose by $2 billion in the year 20. I'm not a financial person, obviously. You see that. You see, Pastor Benny, and you can't read either. I won't argue with you on that. I won't say anything about that either. But I guess you get the drift, right? Let's just see if there's anything else about the Mellon Bank. Is the Mellon Bank making money? For example, it reported $685 million quarterly operating income on the 31st of December 2022. However, the quarterly opening income fell from $1 billion on some the same year. So they're not making money. And it's all because of the year 2022. Now, this article was written by David Jennings, who is a writer and a market analyst for the publication called The Market Madhouse. And a lot of investors and people read this kind of information to know where to put their money. I'm telling you, the Mellon Bank is going down. One other thing about the Mellon Bank. So now they got all this loss of money. They've lost it. If you look at the quarterly loss, if you look at the amount of debt increase, if you look at the absence of the cash flow operating cash flow monies, and what they lost in their long-term investments, they are down, rounded off to about $100 billion less money in 2022, the year I cursed them, than they had in the year 2021 and the years prior. Now think about this for just a second. They have lost nearly $100 billion and they're not making money in the year 2022. $100 billion. As you know, in the first part of the article, I read that they were worth $405 billion. Is that right? So to lose 100, that leaves them $300 billion, but a quarter of their income, a quarter of their worth has dissipated since the curse that I put on them in the year 2022. That ain't all. There's more. Yeah, there is. Mr. Engineer, the Bank of New York, Mellon Bank's Frankfurt offices raided in German tax scandal investigation. Bring that up. So here in New York, the headquarter bank has lost in 1 year after being in operation for hundreds of years, or at least 150 years, have lost $100 billion since I cursed them. Since I cursed them, they've lost $100 billion. I pray that you'll allow me to do this today. We'll get back to some other things perhaps, but you need to hear this. You need to hear this. The Mellon Bank in Frankfurt, its Frankfurt offices was raided in a German tax scandal probe. Let's read. Bank said it continues to cooperate fully with authorities in ongoing investigation into legacy tax matters. The Bank of New York, Mellon Bank, Frankfurt offices are being raided by the Cologne prosecutors on Tuesday. This is going back a year ago, the year I cursed them. The Bank of New York Mellon's Frankfurt offices are being raided by Cologne prosecutors as part of their vast investigation into the controversial Cum-Ex scandal that has increasingly ensnared Wall Street's biggest banks. Mellon Bank confirmed that its Frankfurt office was visited by German authorities. The bank said it continues to cooperate fully with the authorities in an ongoing investigation relating to legacy tax matters. There has been no interruption of services to clients, the lender added. A spokesman for the Cologne prosecutors said searches at two unidentified banks started on Tuesday and included the homes of employees. I also cursed the employees of the Mellon Bank back in August of 2022. Not only were the officers' homes raided, the Mellon Bank with their homes raided, but the employees' homes were raided as well. More than 120 officers are involved in this legacy tax scandal that the German tax authorities are prosecuting now against the Mellon Bank. The investigators are also looking for evidence of deals similar to the CumEx scandal, he said. CumEx was a trading strategy that siphoned off at least $10 billion in government revenue, named for its Latin term. Let me turn the page here. Help me, Holy Ghost. There you go. Named for its Latin term, with and without. The deals took advantage of German tax laws that seemed to allow multiple investors to claim refunds of a tax on dividends that were paid only once. The country moved to abolish the practice in 2012. But as you can see, the Mellon Bank has been using it to siphon off money that did not belong to them. And I'll say this about the German tax authorities. They would not have raided the Mellon Bank unless they had absolute proof that the bank was involved in scheme and a scam and involved in fraud. I'll post these articles up independently. These are all articles mainly from a year ago. The year I cursed Mellon Bank, all these things took place. It's important to me. It may not be important to you. It's important to me. It's important to those that are members of the ATLAH Church. It's important to those of us who have struggled through this fight. It's important that we see that what's happening to the Mellon Bank. I had also stated that I was going to do a take on Eric Adams today, and I'm going to do that when I get back. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back and I'll do my take on Eric Adams. But let me say this, that, and maybe some of you have been an admirer of mine. By that I mean you listen to me and you encouraged by the fight that I've gone through. You know that most people, once they face foreclosure, it's all over with. And you know how important this is to me. I pray that this news about the Mellon Bank now lost over $100 billion the year I cursed them, that the Mellon Bank is now under investigation in its German office, its Frankfurt German office, for scamming the government out of $10 billion in tax refunds that they did not and were not entitled to. And probably a lot of officers are going to go to jail, including Robin Vince, who is the president of the Mellon Bank International. I pray that this is a word of encouragement for you. And I also pray this, that you've seen, I've taken on the Mellon Bank. You've seen how tenaciously I have been fighting. And maybe you've believed in me. And maybe you got a fight that you want to take on yourself. And now that you see that I'm getting a victory. But this is not all. As you know, we have a $23 million plus 18% interest lawsuit against the Mellon Bank that's in the court right now. Right this moment as I speak. And if the Palestinian protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters in front of the Mellon Bank over $13 million investment that the IDF has in this elite weapon system for its fighting of its war and what I refer to as the Sabbath Day War. Think of what a devastating blow it's going to be to the Mellon Bank when the jury awards us that $23 million. Think of the devil, how that's, and because they're already reeling from financial problems. I said earlier that we need to make sure we get our case done before they actually file bankruptcy and won't be able to pay us anything. But I'm sure Robin Vance now knows what it feels like to lose $100 billion in 1 year because a preacher stood outside of his church barefoot and cursed him. I did that. I'm James Evan Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.